Hey, what's up? Zach here, and today I have the all-new Curry Flow 10, and let's see if they're any bit of an upgrade from the Curry Flow 9. Here we go. Now starting off in the uppers, this is another rendition of Under Armour's Warp layer. However, unlike the Curry Flow 9, the 10s are actually a little bit flattened. However, they do still retain that multi-mesh, multi-directional, multi-width type design with yarn threads, more straps, as well as TPU fencing around it. So even though it is a little bit flatter than the Curry Flow 9 and not as kind of textile and tactile, it still does have all the same properties, just a little bit more of a malleable and more flowable type upper versus on the 9s, which at times could feel like a slip knot around you. This doesn't. This just feels like one layer. However, one pretty darn strong layer because it's made of all these different materials just kind of compressed all into one. But what I personally think is a little more of an upgrade in the 10s is the opening here in the tongue or vamp or lace line here. It is a little bit wider, a little bit more accepting. However, still super reinforced along the entire lace line with really nice chunky premium shoelaces that do really give a strong and secure tie down. But the most important upgrade from the 9s to the 10s is the stabilizer here on the lateral heel. It's not much, it's pretty subtle. However, I did notice not nearly as much instability going side to side versus on the 9s here where it's just fabric. I know it is that warp layered. Under Armour says that it's super strong. However, sometimes you just need something a little bit stiffer there in the heel to stop the rear foot from being able to move all over the place. And on the upper durability test, the Dremel 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper. I mean, the Dremel does make an impression on it. However, it doesn't nearly get through the layer of warp. So, I mean, especially because these are more indoor shoes, I really don't think you're going to be coming into contact with sandpaper under your foot when you're dragging, so I think these still should be just fine. But getting into the midsole teardown, and these are always my favorite to do with Under Armour Flow Foam because I get to talk about diaper elastic and all the materials that diaper elastic is made of up here. However, with the Under Armour Flow Foam, like I said, it is a combined mid and outsole, so you do get a pretty continuous stack of foam, so you're able to get a little bit more foam underneath of your foot. What I do like about the 10s is the shank is even longer than on the 9s, so a little bit more of a diving board effect than even the Curry Flow 9 had, which was still pretty darn good. As you can see, I just actually cut right through the insole here. I kind of wanted to see the different colors on there. I thought that looked pretty cool. What I think is the most intuitive part of the midsole construction is if you can see the shank here, it is really far below your footbed here in the heel, but then it comes up closer to your toes right here, right where you'd be pushing off with your toes. So you get more of that diving board effect in the toes, but also a lot more comfort back there in the heel. And combine that with Flow Foam, which is so elastic, so springy, it has so much bounce. Remember, it's made of diaper elastic, so it can just move and bend all over the place and then snap back. I mean, if you look at the jump height test on these, 43 centimeters on average, which for a shoe this light and nimble and maneuverable just really is a feat of engineering. I think this is great. I think if you are someone looking for a shoe, if you're trying to practice dunking, or if you want a shoe to kind of like learn how to dunk in, I do think these are going to give you the most forgiveness just because, like I said, they are light enough to get up off the ground really easily, but also give you just a tremendous snap and diving board effect from just the construction and how that shank is placed in the shoe. But moving into the outsole tread, I do like that they made it chunkier in the 10s versus the 9s, but I think the most important part of the outsole tread on the 10s is if you look at it going front to back or back to front, whichever way you're looking at it, is in the forefoot of the shoe from your first metatarsal or the inside of your foot to the outside of the ball of your foot. There is just a slight concavity to this versus on the 9s where there was so much bulk of foam just underneath your big toe joint, whereas on the 10s when you step into them it almost acts like a suction cup on the ground when you put weight on it, almost like you're suction cupping something to the wall. And so versus on the 9s where you kind of felt unstable and they tilted a little bit, on the 10s it's really subtle on both sides, so it's equal, right? And that works so well on a surface like hardwood, which can really kind of accept that type of really large surface area contact, because remember, Flow Foam is not tread, it's just stamped into the midsole foam. Yeah, it has a little bit of a coating here for durability, but for all intents and purposes, it's just stamped foam. So the way these get traction is by surface area contact. So when you're pivoting really hard on your forefoot, it's almost grabbing into the ground. Now, I did notice on an outdoor court, these don't have the same stop on a dime properties that they do on an indoor court. Because on an indoor court, number one, they're silent. Number two, they just come to a dead stop. Whereas on the outdoor courts, a little bit more forgiveness, you kind of have to get used to them. And when I noticed on the Shuttle Test, I mean, it came in at 14.37 seconds, just because the shoe is so darn fast, has a great launch on it, just easy to get up to speed on straights. However, on the turns, if you notice, I was sliding there at the beginning, just because I wasn't expecting that kind of profile from them after coming off on hardwood. And I would say, if you look at the outsole durability test, the Dremel 10 seconds high grit sandpaper, the Dremel just goes right through it, just burns right through that tread. So I would say these are okay in a pinch hit on an outdoor court if they are smooth, painted, and not super gritty asphalt. The shape and profile of the mid and outsole is just meant for hardwood. It's just not meant for outdoor courts. The fit of the Curry Flow 10s, very subtle, but very different from the 9s. So for a narrow medium foot, still go true to size. However, for a 2E, I think I just go up 1/2 size. You should be pretty comfortable. I have not had any cramping yet, and they do just feel a little bit more forgiving in the 4-foot than the 9s. Like I said, it's subtle, but it's there. But I would still say these are not my favorite shoes in the world for ankle sprainers. I mean, I know Steph Curry uses them. They're his signature shoe. However, he does wear ankle braces a lot with these. And like I said, I think these are more meant to give nimble movement. So, I mean, for somebody with heel pain, ball of foot pain, even arch pain on the 10s, I think they're just fine. That flow foam is just so forgiving. It does absorb so much shock. So I think if you're looking for a more nimble, lightweight shoe, you do have heel or ball of foot pain, even Achilles type pain, I think these are just fine. They're gonna be really good for shock absorption. It's just, I wouldn't go looking for these for a lightweight shoe for ankle sprain protection. Yes, they are just worlds better than the Curry Flow 9. I mean, they're not even playing the same game. However, they're still not the shoe that I would reach for personally if I were an ankle sprainer. But getting into the playability of the Curry Flow 10, honestly, when I saw these, on Instagram when they were kind of teasing them, I honestly didn't think that they were any different whatsoever from the 9s. However, the upgrades, like I said, are just subtle enough. They just do enough to make this shoe play quite a bit better than the 9s, at least in my opinion. The flow foam, a little bit more tacky than the 9s. It's almost like the 4 Flowtros that came out later in the year. I do think they're getting better and better with kind of the tackiness of the flow foam. And with them putting this little stabilizer here on the lateral heel, you have a lot more confidence pivoting and turning, hesitation, stepping, things like that. So, I mean, and if you're looking for a super nimble shoe that can also get you up off the ground really easily, these are great. If you're someone that plays with a lot of speed, a lot of really aggressive, fast, kind of shifty footwork, these are tremendous, and I do think they're enough of an upgrade from the 9 that I would go for the 10 over the 9, even if the 9 was on sale. So, I think for someone like me too, who's a little bit heavier of an athlete, these gave me a little bit more of a bounce in my step without weighing me down. You're also getting that real light of foot feeling underneath of them, which just gives you a lot more confidence to try kind of different types of footwork and different types of things. So I will say I was humbled by the 10s. I was really thinking I was not gonna like these. I was ready to just ask why they even made a new one and kind of get into that whole thing. However, after about 20 minutes into them, you can really tell, like I said, the upgrades, subtle but significant, and I think that's kind of the rub on these shoes. And so I think if you were looking for something like the Curry Flow 9, but just didn't like the profile, didn't like the fit, didn't like the instability, but you did like the flow foam, you did like how springy they were and how bouncy they were, then the 10s are a perfect fit. No pun intended. But of course, I'd love to know your thoughts. Are you giving the 10s a chance? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to see the other lightweight but super nimble and super playable shoe that just released, the Nike Air Del Dawn, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam, and of course, in all Under Armour videos, diaper elastic. I'll see you in the next one.